I'm so glad you're able to join in today. If it's your first time here, you're so much welcome. Please do well to watch this video to the end. If you're impressed, do well to like, share, subscribe. Do well to leave a comment, to encourage us, to critique, to suggest. Most importantly, we hope you enjoy this video. Yes, today we are looking at ta-da! Today we're going straight to my local dish. Yes, I'm sure by now you know that Aba is a typical Fante name for Fante ladies born on Thursday, and for Fante's our indigenous meal is what we call the Fante Fante and na Etsew. Fante Fante na Etsew. Ebi so friend ungo fry and our fresh fish stew, but depend on how I put it on. But here's your friend Fante Fante na Etsew. Today, I'm sure you how you Fante Fante na Etsew in a very simple way. And to kick off, you need some tomatoes, you need some onion, you need some pepper, you need some garlic, you need some ginger, you need to blend them up together. You need some good palm oil, some salt, some tomato mix or tomato paste. I used some shrimps, I used a bit of sea snails, I used some green pepper, I used some onion, Prekese for fortification, I used some Kako, I used beef as well, and of course my key ingredient, my fresh fish. And then I had some octopus and then some prawns as well. And for my Etsew, my key stuff will body. Etsew is a mehiani a bromor, so corn dough, fermented corn dough. So this recipe is one of the simplest you can do. It's not as complicated as you may think. To kick off, I start off by frying my shrimps in my oil. Using shrimps because when you use shrimps, you get the natural shrimp taste. So you don't need to add any cube or anything to it. And it gives you that extra kick. If you don't, it's optional. You can just decide to just start off with your onions. Then I fried in the Kako and then the onions as well. So as that is also frying, I added in, of course, my green pepper. Traditionally, most people may not add a bell pepper, but I do it to add a bit of aroma to it. Then I added in the blended vegetable mix, and my Prekese also went in. So I added a bit of water because Fante Fante, on the stew is very thick. You want the stew to be a bit loose because when it cooks, you're still going to put in the fish in, and it's not supposed to be a very thick stew like gravy. It's supposed to be a bit loose. In the area, and as in crack on now, not as a tomato mix also as I can. Then let it come to a boil. Once it's on fire, you can go to your Etsew and start preparing that as well. So and side by side. A baby on so happen. Into your Etsew as I hear a bromor. Yes, your corn dough. Yes, so you just mix it nicely. Make sure it's very smooth. Your corn dough. You can use your hand to do it. Some may also want to strain it to get it very fine. How we do it at my end, we want the fiber in those ones. We want the fiber in as well. We need the chaff in as well. So you can decide to, it's optional. If you want to sieve it to get it very fine, it's up to you. But make sure there's no lumps. Then you add in your salt to it. So you're going to check on our Fante Fante. You realize that it's steaming nicely. And you want to make sure before your fish goes in, make sure your stew is almost done. Because in more in China, what happened? Watch around 15, 20, 30 minutes. Now what happened? So before it goes in, make sure it's well cooked. Your stew is almost cooked. Then you add in your salt as well to taste. And your fish goes in. So for those of you who have never worked on fish before, I have some fish recipes coming up. And I'm going to try and do a seafood gala for you, how to work on your seafood, because this snails is already pre-cooked, the crab is already pre-cooked, the octopus is already pre-cooked in this video, yes, to make it faster. But I'll do well to do a recording on that. So once your fish, your seafood Fante Fante, I'm kind of them, you need to be working on your etiw alongside into our burning. Na etiw also happen. So you just need to stir at the initial stage. You need to stir your mixture for it to thicken, and you need to be careful with the stirring. If you don't stir it properly, when you realize that you may have some lumps coming in. So when you stir and it comes to a point where it is thickening very much, that's when you need to start, should I say, some will say paddling, some will say, how do you call it, I don't know which word to use, but I want to etiw you need to put some pressure on it, so like I'm doing in the video. And honestly, this is the main deal. If you don't want to get lumps in it, you need to do this very well. If you don't do this well, then you may end up having some lumps in your etiw, which you won't want. You want to eat your etiw smooth and lump free, especially at the start. If you get the start well, you have a very fine etiw at the end. Now you realize that when I was mixing, I used 1 cup of corn dough, then I used 1 cup of water to mix, then I left 1 cup in there. So the 1 cup I reserved it because that's what I'm going to use as I'm cooking. So approximately, if you're making your etiw, if you're taking 1 part of corn dough, you can approximately use like double or 2/3 more of water. You need a bit more water in to make it softer, but I don't need too much water, else it will flake once it cools down. Yes, so if you use less water too, it's going to be very tough once it's done. So I'm just going to add the rest of the water in, and I keep on mixing it up and then exerting my pressure on it and making sure it comes out smooth. Yes, and you cover it for a while just to make it heat up, and then the water would also cook it up a bit and soften it up a bit. Some would use hot water. You can decide to use hot water instead of the warm water, but personally, when I'm doing small like this, or I'm multitasking, I don't have so much time, I just use the warm water. So by the time it's done heating and it's boiling, I'd have time to rest my muscles. But when I'm doing a large quantity, I like to do it on a cold pot, and I like to use the hot water. That makes it fast. But when I'm in a hurry, I use the hot water. But then to help me rest a bit, Charlie, sometimes I like the normal tap water. So by the time it's done heating up, my arms are also rested well. So once this is boiling, Charlie, heating no cocoa, then you move to reassemble. Let me say it like that. It may look a bit separated or coagulated, but then don't worry, you can just mix it nicely. It will come out beautifully. The end is what matters. So take your time, because there's water in, you realize that yeah, it's a bit mushy and all those ones, and you mix it nicely and you go to the main deal. How well you do this part is going to get your etiw to be consistent. You see, etiw, unlike banku, there's no cassava dough inside. And to say chew ni ya, that's in chew palm or fear. On an etiw no the next day, iwana obubu. Then cover it a little bit so the heat would go in a bit. At this point, can you put it on low or medium heat? Then you knead it. And you realize this, Orbina, when your etiw is getting cooked, the color changes, the smell changes. When you taste it, you feel it's cooked. The typical etiw around this place, or from where I grew up, we usually use the yellow corn, because yellow corn, they ought to fine. So when you do the yellow corn has its own sweet taste. You either do it round or you do it not perfectly rectangular, but then the local folks, we have how we do. We usually use your hand and all those ones. But for presentation's sake, I'm just using the foil to get it nicely put together, but without my hand. Yes, so etiw on, you know, simple cra. Me hang we bromar, unsu, na wanchin, na aka. Then you can boil it nicely like this. Then you can serve your etiw with chinam, awacho, now pepper sauce, green pepper sauce. We've already done it on this channel. You can check the recipe out, and you can eat this. Me, this is my favorite too. And up past 7 o'clock, you catch me eating it. This one, dear, my husband will tell you. So, like I said, you can also do it on your cold pot for a large quantity. And your Fante Fante is super duper ready. So I told you, when your fish and things go in within 15-20 minutes, you are done. Oh, yes. And you can serve your Fante Fante with some okra, optional, and you can serve it with your etsew. Traditionally, this is how we eat it. But then, etsew you can do gari eba. Yes, go to make you eba another gari is a show. That's easy. What's some kinds of dokon? What's some is a banku? You can use it to eat it. So this is your simple Fante Fante dish. Yes, high class anti-level Fante Fante. Mine is simple caramel. So I'm hoping you try it out, and I'm hoping you try the etsew as well, and I'm hoping you try it for yourself. Don't believe in the misconception or stereotype that etsew is too hard. Etsew is some way. It's a great dish. If you do it well, you love it super well. I hope you did like what we did today, the recipe we did today. If you're so impressed, please do well to like, share, subscribe. Do well to join us in our next food episode. Till then, live life to the fullest. Be happy, be joyous. Make sure you eat healthy. Make sure you live healthy. Make sure that together you join us, make every food moment count. Lots of love for my team and I, as always. Mwah.